All right. Day two of LP's fantasy show. Um, kind of doing this late at night here. Today I'm going over some of my favorite stacks to find in Underdog's BestBall Mania 3 tournament right now. Um, Created a new YouTube channel and everything specifically for this. So I'm not going live here today. I'm recording on Zoom, so audio might sound different to you. We are evaluating these stacks based off of cost, just like, some of my favorite picks in the first 5 rounds, and just how I'm approaching my rankings in general this year. We're factoring ADP into the equation because honestly, especially with stacks, if you can find successful offenses at a cheap price, or at least a cheaper price than it should be, you're generally going to be building good teams. So today I'm going to go over kind of a variety of stacks that I've kind of highlighted here. I've simply only looked at the ADP based on Underdog, and I'll be showing some of that ADP here today, as well as looking at my board here for the ADP on Underdog being spread out over a draft board. I have honestly more than I thought I would like. I've got 6 teams actually, which now that I say it out loud actually sounds less than I think. But 6 of the 32 right now being over, inappropriately priced, I think, is not too high of a number, right? Like, I think I tend to fall into the trap of like getting too contrarian, and thinking that the public is generally wrong on a lot of teams. By fighting that notion, you kind of just try to separate yourself from it and try to really think for yourself. So today I'll be going over 6 teams. I can list them now: San Francisco, Philly, the Jets, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and the Vikings. I'll go over each reason as to why. Obviously, I'll go in depth here, but these are teams that I think are honestly sneaky good, and could exceed expectations. One last team actually. I also have the Steelers, and the stacks themselves don't necessarily equate to my thoughts on the team as a whole, but I think the offenses can be put into good position here. And based on the price we see on Underdog, I think we could get some value there. Let me start by sharing my board here. I literally just take out a Google Sheet and, list the players from one, basically who's the 101 ADP wise, and understanding that there's some wiggle room here. If you're looking at this, you can obviously see a preview here of some of my favorite picks in rounds 6 through 10 there. And I've kind of gone through the whole draft, and kind of highlighted some ones that I really, really feel strong about. The more green it is, the more strong I feel about it, with the neon green colors being like money picks to me. Excuse me, my chair, and I've got a little bit of a dry mouth here. We'll be looking at Underdog fantasy rankings. Fantasy ADP. This is not rankings at all. Sorry, it's literally just ordinate ADP. You can see that there. Just for sometimes I like to know not just the draft round, but the number at which the pick is. So I say we just get started here. I don't have anything necessarily to show in terms of the teams on my screen, but I'll definitely be referencing this ADP board and the Underdog fantasy ADP there. These are basically just 2 different versions of the same information. So let's start with San Francisco. For San Francisco, you can get their number 1 passing game option in the 4th round. Well, I guess that's not true. Eric Crocker, who I believe covers the 49ers, he was just on the Underdog fantasy show, and he talked about or he said that he expects Debo to come back. So, maybe this is a more expensive stack, but to me, I was okay with taking this stack with the thoughts that Debo doesn't play. Um, maybe it does all blow over, but if he's demanded a trade, um, well, I guess he also said that might not have been true. Anyways, let's say you don't include Debo. You get George Kittle here, which fills a onesie position in the fourth round. I said last podcast I think you should be taking him in the fifth, um, but I'm okay with the fourth round here. You then don't get another 49ers player until Brandon Ayuk in round 7. And I like Ayuk, especially if Debo doesn't play. But a second round, fourth round, and a seventh round to me is nothing crazy for the top 3 passing game options in this offense. If all 3 are healthy at the same time, I think people get scared about the many mouths to feed. But 3 targets honestly is a pretty condensed target tree. And if Debo doesn't get hurt, or if Debo doesn't play, and or Kittle or Ayuk gets hurt, you're kind of okay with that, because I'm truly excited about what this offense can be like with Trey Lance. And to me right now, Trey Lance going in the 9th round is pretty insane. And this is probably the reason why San Francisco is my number one, my favorite stack. This was my favorite stack last year. I know people think that because the Niners are not trading Garoppolo yet, that they think, Lance is going to be the guy. They wanted to trade Garoppolo. It's so to me, it's not about a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I think people get scared, like, oh, what if Garoppolo doesn't get traded? There's no way. Why would they change their mind? Because Lance gets injured? Well, if Lance gets injured, then you've already lost out on Lance anyways. So, like, what's the big deal? Lance to me is, has such huge rushing upside. And, I love the price on Jalen Hurts right now in the 6th round. And I feel like I'm getting a player that could be just as good as Jalen Hurts in the 9th round. So I'm really excited about this Niners offense. You get an elite tight end option in the 4th round. You get, a rushing quarterback with elite upside in the 9th. And then, hey, go spend your 2nd round pick on Debo if you want. Go spend your 7th round pick on Brandon Ayuk. Go get Danny Gray, like in your last round or something like that. I'm all about the Niners this year. All right, I had to get a drink of water because, man. So picking up kind of where we left off there, I'm a big fan of San Francisco. I was last year. Maybe I was a little bit premature on Trey Lance coming in and being the starter for San Francisco, but I think now's the time. And all signs kind of pointing to that for me. Speaking of Jalen Hurts and liking his price in the 6th round, you can find fewer quarterbacks in the NFL that were more supported this offseason than Jalen Hurts. They go get the heir apparent to Jason Kelce, who could probably play right away. And Jason Kelce loves this guy, just offensive line help. They have Landon Dickerson. I think they've what can we say about AJ Brown, being added to that roster? It's a pretty impressive roster, and I think it's filled with guys that are really good. So, for example, we can get AJ Brown in the end of the 2nd round. I'm still curious what this offense is going to look like, if it's going to be 2-run heavy, but I'm kind of back. I was gonna complain about how AJ Brown might be overpriced, because you used to be able to get AJ Brown when he was on the Titans, in like the 3rd, 4th round. Obviously that's not happening anymore because he's on the Eagles. But this tournament did just start. I was going to say he's too expensive. But if he can succeed on a Titans offense that was run first, why can't he succeed on an Eagles offense that's run first but has Miles Sanders running the ball? Like when AJ Brown was on the Titans, it was like, who's the best player? AJ Brown or Derrick Henry or Corey Davis? Everybody would take Derrick Henry. Like I don't think there's any argument about that. Now I think he's for sure the best player on the field, or at least on offense, for the Eagles. So, you can get AJ Brown in the late second round, which I'm totally fine with still. Maybe he falls to the back end of to the beginning of the third because some guys jump on Higgins or Fournette or Jones or Barkley. I don't know. I can see why AJ Brown is going higher. I'd take him probably before Chubb and Javonte. But then you can get Jalen Hurts in the 6th round, and Jalen Hurts in the 6th round as like the quarterback, like 8. Is that maybe it's the quarterback 6? QB 7, so I'm right in between there. But Jalen Hurts is a quarterback 7. I mean, this guy was a top 5 quarterback last year, and the offense has only gotten better. Then you can go get Devonta Smith, who I think is like extremely underrated. But maybe I just have an affinity for these kinds of guys because I'm also a big fan of like Wilson and Olave, these smaller but really good wide receiver technique guys. Devonta Smith in the 7th round is not egregious to me at all. He should only benefit from having AJ Brown on the field. And then, something that's kind of a surprise to me, I guess it's not that much of a surprise, but Goddard's ADP seems to have fallen a little bit for me. Maybe it's because of the added target percentage that AJ Brown draws, but I guess I kind of see that, but tight end's such a hit or miss opportunity there. So that's why I like Philly. I don't think they're even Miles Sanders in the 8th round, or I guess he's going in the 7th here. His ADP's risen a little bit. But you have options there in those middle rounds. It's not super expensive, and are like, I don't think you're doing yourself a disservice by tying yourself to AJ Brown in the 2nd round. So I really like the options there for the Eagles. Next, I want to talk about the New York Jets. And Zach Wilson did not look good last year. But you know what? A lot of quarterbacks don't look good when the supporting cast around them is not that good. Yes, you see the athleticism of Justin Fields. That's obvious, but that's going to be evident no matter if the Bears are good or if the Bears suck. Zach Wilson's not as athletic as Justin Fields, obviously. But I think Joe Douglas, this offseason and the last, knew, or once he drafted Zach Wilson, he knew that the race was on to who's going to support their quarterback the most. And Jacksonville made an effort to do it with Trevor Lawrence. I think they didn't execute it perfectly. The Bears did not. Just as simple as that. Whether you believe that's a good decision or not, it's hard to say. They're a very bad roster and have a lot that they need to get. Mac Jones, in New England, sure. And, Trey Lance, right? Well, I don't think any of them have been as supported as Zach Wilson. They've drafted 1st-round offensive linemen. No, I'm sorry. They've drafted 1st-round offensive talent in back-to-back years. They got, Mekhi, and they got Elijah Vera Tucker. Then they go sign Laken Tomlinson. They sign Corey Davis, draft Elijah Moore with the 2nd pick of the 2nd round last year, draft Garrett Wilson. This offense to me, and maybe the connection here is too weak, but hello Cincinnati Bengals of last year. They draft a wide receiver 5. They had a a second round wide receiver that they took with like the first pick the year before. And they had a good slot guy in Tyler Boyd. The Bengals offensive line wasn't nearly as good as what the Jets have right now. And, I'm not saying Wilson is Chase or that even Elijah Moore is T. Higgins, but you can make up that value there lost in the weapons with the offensive line. And maybe Zach Wilson can be good enough. So just looking at the prices here, it's not like anybody on the Jets is super expensive. You've got Breece Hall is actually the most expensive, the rookie running back. Another way that the Jets supported Zach Wilson this year. They didn't just settle for Michael Carter as their guy. They went and got another one. And they also drafted 3 tight ends. Like everything is lining up, I think, for the Jets. I don't think they're necessarily going to be amazing, but it would not shock me if they were the second best team in the division at all. I'm still going to bet on Belichick, but like I said, wouldn't be shocked. So Breece Hall in the 5th, if you really wanted to add in the rushing game element there, he could also catch some passes. Elijah Moore is the first guy in the passing game in the 6th round. I love Elijah Moore. And I think, the next guy on this list, Garrett Wilson, he's in the 8th round. I think he's a money selection at ADP right now, which I'll go over next week on Tuesday when I do my favorite targets in rounds 1 through 6. Or I'm sorry, 6 through 10. But Garrett Wilson, adding a top 10 wide receiver, historically top 10 wide receivers have hit hard. And to me, Wilson was the number 1 wide receiver in this process. I just based on what I've seen from tons of scouts, Dane Brugler at The Athletic, the beast. I read it. It's amazing. Worth any cost that it costs for Athletic. I only subscribe to The Athletic because of him. To me, Wilson was the guy for a long time. So, I think that just makes a lot, like I said, I think people are afraid of target competition. And while on the one hand, while I am, on the other, like if I'm doing these stacks, I don't care because it's best ball and I don't have to choose who's going to start. I think that I believe in synergy. I believe in synergy and the effect that, talent meeting with talent and what that means for the overall offense, the overall system, the overall machine. So Elijah in the 6th, Garrett Wilson in the 8th. And if you really wanted to go after Corey Davis, I'm just not a fan. You could go after him at 13 in the 13th round. But guess what else? That's where Zach Wilson is going in the 13th round. 13th round, just as a frame of reference here, that is the QB 20, not too bad actually, at 152, pick 152. That is too cheap right now. For you to be able to go stack this Jets offense for those prices, to me is just it's I don't know, man. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just really feel the Jets offense doing well this year. The next one I have, kind of is I'm kind of wishy-washy on it. It's mainly because of Michael Pittman's rise in ADP, but to me the Colts are a pretty interesting stack here. Obviously you need the 101 or the 102 and hope that someone doesn't take Taylor to get Jonathan Taylor. But even if you don't get Taylor, I think there's some value here. I think it's obviously best paired with Taylor because I think you just want pieces of the Colts offense. And he's going to be the offense. But, Michael Pittman was like a way later pick than he is right now. Right now he's going in the 3rd round, but, I really had him high, and he's still pretty much at ADP for me. I think the addition of Matt Ryan is really going to do something because I think Matt Ryan is a way better quarterback than Carson Wentz. The Falcons last year should have been having the number 1 overall pick this year. They picked at 8. They really probably should have been picking at 3. And the reason that they weren't is because Matt Ryan was on the team. Now Matt Ryan goes to an Indy team that I think is set up to really succeed. If they had Phillip Rivers right now, I think we'd be talking about Indy winning the division. I had Indy winning the division last year. Titans defense surprised me, but I still have them winning the division here. And so you can get Michael Pittman, who I think is going to be a target hog, and who I think Matt Ryan's going to really like in the third round. Like I said, the price might be a little high, honestly. I'd love to take him more like in the fourth or the fifth because, if you believe this is going to be a run first offense, I'd still take him before Cooper Metcalf. Maybe I'm okay with it. But anyways, the reason I like this in Indianapolis stack is because the price of the other two pieces on this offense. Number one, Matt Ryan is going in the 14th round. That's a round later than Zach Wilson. What the hell is up with that? That like maybe Zach Wilson is just getting drafted by people who believe. I don't know. But then a guy I think that I actually really, really like, also in the 14th round, Alec Pierce. To me, he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense. And, if he's good, the attention's going to be on Pittman. The attention's going to be on Taylor. Alec Pierce is like kind of a similar play style, I think, to Michael Pittman. He's kind of this bigger guy, go get it, ball getter. But I think he's better than expected. Louis Riddick actually said rookie of the year after posting a picture of him. And I was already excited for him because other guys I respect, Brugler, I think, was higher. I don't know about super high, but high on him. I've heard good things about him throughout this draft season. Nate Tice is a big fan of him. Also of the Athletic, Nate Tice. So, Alec Pierce to me really, really makes some sense. I don't want anything to do with the tight ends for Indy. But like I said, let's say you get the 101, draft Jonathan Taylor, and then go search for this Indy stack. Go get Michael Pittman in the third. Maybe you're not getting him in the third. Actually, you could, but go get Jonathan Taylor, and then go get Matt Ryan and Alec Pierce. Just go get Matt Ryan and Alec Pierce if you have to take one of them around early. Or maybe you take them at the 13-14 turn because you probably could. Actually, the 13-14 turn doesn't exist. So maybe you take them at the 12-13 turn, which sucks, but I don't know. You get the stack. You're not supposed to reach for a stack, but I don't know. Go get Matt Ryan and Alec Pierce in the 14th round, 13th, 14th round, even if you don't have the 101. But I like that stack there. I think they could be effective. Frank Reich, I'm a big fan of, and Frank Reich with Matt Ryan. To me, it's going to be the run game. That's just going to make Matt Ryan's life easier. So I could see a lot of touchdowns. I could just see this offense really taking off. I could see the Colts being one of the better teams in the AFC. If they get some guys coming back from injury, even though the Carson Wentz thing didn't work out, Chris Ballard has been hitting home runs for a few years, I think. Or not hitting home runs, but getting doubles, and triples and home runs and in between there. So, I like this Indy stack. This Indy stack, I think could actually be replicated for cheaper, arguably cheaper here with the Steelers. And the Steelers are actually actually a team that I might, if Deshaun Watson plays, as much as I do not like him, if Deshaun Watson plays, I think the Steelers are the worst team in the division. I do agree that Cincinnati's defense, I believe that Cincinnati's defense could be the Achilles heel to the cause of Cincinnati's title drought or slump or whatever it's going to be called. We'll talk about Cincy here in a minute, but the Steelers, to me, while it's close, I think it's really close. To me, the quarterback play is just so drastically different that I'd have to just almost automatically give the Steelers the lowest seed in that division. But that being said, Kenny Pickett. I kind of like Kenny Pickett. Um, has been the number one quarterback in this draft class for most of the process. Was expected to be the number one quarterback taken. When that was going to be the question. And he landed to me in a pretty decent spot. Yes, the offensive line is probably not perfect in Pittsburgh. And I don't know if I would even say it's good, but they have like a certain style to them that I think makes them. I think just Pittsburgh gets the most out of their players. And Mike, that's a credit to Mike Tomlin there. Um, but the weapons to me are good. Um, Najee Harris, I unbelievable passing game back. He's super big, super quick. Deontay Johnson is, a really good wide receiver. Not a fan of Chase Claypool. The drama, the diva stuff. Diva is such a lazy term, but he's just to me like a poor sport. Like he's something going on in his mentals that frightens me a little bit. But Chase Claypool right now, man, is going pretty cheap, and Freiermuth too. Like that, there's just options there. There's weapons, And to me, Kenny Pickett, I think, can take advantage of that. And I think really Ben Roethlisberger was holding this offense back, and I think they can do some things here. Also drafted George Pickens in the second round. So I think there's just a lot of options for Kenny Pickett here. So for the Colts stack, you need to take Taylor at the 101. You then need to take Michael Pittman in the third round. You then need to take Alec Pierce and Matt Ryan in the 14th round. Well, you can get the running back on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also going to be run oriented, who are also going to feed Najee Harris. You can get Najee Harris at the 108 instead of the 101, which in the first round, 7 picks matters. 7 picks in general just matters. Will he be as successful? Will he be the RB1? Maybe not. But could he be close? Sure. Then you go take Deontay Johnson, who's only going a pick before Michael Pittman. That's in the third round. Okay, and this is actually a doable stack here, as you can see, based on just the ADP alone. The next player for the Steelers to come off the board doesn't come off the board until the 10th round. And that's Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool to me going in the 10th round is a money selection. I really like it. And if you miss out on Chase Claypool, you can go get Freiermuth, who, to me could be just as good as, some of these other tight ends going in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th round. Basically a couple rounds before. I'd say more 8th, 9th, like a Dawson Knox or I saw someone else here earlier, like an Ertz. An Ertz. Schultz, not Hawkinson, but anyways, you get what Goddard. Freiermuth in the 10th sounds pretty nice. If I can get the same, close to same consistency of points, not necessarily week to week, but just, how often they kind of hit. You could take George Pickens in the, where's he going? I can't even see him on my board here. He's going in drafts, but to me, I think the price is just slightly high. But if you're into George Pickens, go take George Pickens. He's not going that early. He's going at, man, I can't find him to save my life. Let's just do this. Okay, if he's going in the 12th, like that's okay to me. Chase Claypool to me in the 10th round just seems so much better. But to me, the reason that this stack for Pittsburgh is so juicy is Kenny Pickett in the last round as the quarterback 30. Like you're telling me Davis Mills, I've heard, Davis Mills would probably go number 1, be the first quarterback taken, but other than Kenny Pickett. You're telling me Marcus Mariota is better than Kenny Pickett and better set up? You're telling me like Ryan Tannehill is set up to succeed. Not that Pickett should be going up near Ryan Tannehill, but to me, Pickett he's just I think just set up so well, and he's going in the last round. Um, you're taking players like Nico Collins and Wandale Robinson and Kendrick Bourne around before. Wentz goes around before. You're telling me Pickett's not better than Wentz, or at least put in a better situation than Wentz? Come on. Um, so I really like the Steelers as a stack there. To me, the fact that Pickett goes in the 18th versus Pierce and Ryan, I would rather take Claypool in the 10th and Pickett in the 18th than Alec Pierce and Matt Ryan in the 13th, 14th. Kind of. There's more evidence of Chase Claypool being good. Where Alec Pierce, I think, is more of a long shot there. Couple more stacks here. I'll go over one more that I think is reasonably priced, and I'll get to my last one here, which I think is more expensive. The Vikings. This one you kind of. I'm changing a little bit here. It's the Vikings passing game. Yeah, if you want to go get Dalvin Cook, go get Dalvin Cook. And if you wanted to stack this with like Cook and Thielen and Kirk Cousins for the, first round, seventh round, 10th round, it's not bad. I just don't. I just want Justin Jefferson over Dalvin Cook, and I'm probably not someone who's going to be taking a lot of Dalvin Cook. So if you can get Justin Jefferson and Thielen in the 7th round with Kirk Cousins in the 10th, this is a very condensed target distribution for the Vikings, I think. Irv Smith has got to be somewhat kind of good, and so does like KJ Osborne or the other guy, Ish Smith, I think, or something like that. That's his last name. I don't think I'm saying that right, but he's not even being drafted right now. To me, that passing game isn't super cheap, but they're kind of like stars. And you've got a new offensive coordinator, guy from the Rams, Kevin O'Connell, or new head coach, sorry, but he should be running the offense. So, all right, I guess. It's one that I thought, it's not too cheap there, or it's not too bad there in terms of price, and I really like Justin Jefferson. My last stack here is actually an expensive stack, but I'm going with Cincinnati. And, this stack is expensive. Chase at 105, Higgins in the 3rd, Burrow in the 6th, and, if I'm a big fan of Tyler Boyd, so Tyler Boyd in the 10th. And if you really wanted to, if you missed out on Chase, maybe you could go after Mixon or something. But to me, this is kind of similar to the Vikings. I want the passing game. I want that Chase Burrow connection, because it's so great to start. Number one, and number two, as I kind of alluded to earlier, I do think there's going to be some Super Bowl hangover. There's the phrase, Super Bowl hangover, for the Bengals. Is there going to be one for the Rams? I'm not sure. I think there was more things, a friend of mine says that they get lucky, or they got lucky. I don't know if it's necessarily luck, but I do think that they succeeded with a lot of things working against them, which I think a lot of people don't really ignore, or don't really or they tend to ignore. That's why I think so highly of Joe Burrow, because there was things working against them and he overcame those. First thing specific to last year was the offensive line. It was awful. It was awful. 9 sacks in the game against the Titans, and yet they still won. Yes, the defense played well. Yes, the defense is kind of like an island of misfit toys, because it's just like a bunch of like guys. And I think there are some good players on that defense, but do I think it's one of the best defenses to get you to a championship? No. But even if you think that the Bengals defense falters, even if you think that the Bengals got a little bit lucky last year, their offense was still really good despite offensive line weaknesses. And then this offseason, they revamped the offensive line. Did they do it in Kansas City Chiefs style? No. But this offensive line for sure got better. And what about this offense doesn't make you think of the Kansas City Chiefs? Like, they've got a quarterback that's really, really good. They have unbelievable weapons. Chase, Mixon, Higgins, Boyd. This offense this offense is going to sustain this team. This offense is very similarly built to the Chiefs. If you can keep up with the Chiefs, right? If you can score points like the Chiefs, your defense does not have to be amazing. The Chiefs proved that. Now, you want a good defense, but I just think with the quality of players that they have, I think they have a bunch of B guys with a couple maybe A's sprinkled in and maybe a couple C's sprinkled in. I think that's going to be the fault, the fault line for the Bengals Super Bowl hangover. That's only more opportunity for the offense. So I'm really excited about the Bengals here. I honestly think they're still being a little bit underpriced. Jamar Chase at the 105, to me, he's in the better offense and he has the better quarterback than Justin Jefferson. I get the target share thing, but we saw Chase still dominate. And yeah, Higgins wasn't himself, but we still saw Chase dominate for a while. If you miss out on Chase, Higgins is so good. He's probably a number one wide receiver, but he gets to play alongside Chase. Then you've got Burrow, who's going as a quarterback 6 in round 6, right before Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he doesn't have the rushing upside, but he's athletic. And, I'm not expecting him to run the ball. I'm expecting him to throw the ball. And I want those points, especially if they're going to be in shootouts. And then to me, an egregious one is Tyler Boyd in the 3rd round. Or I'm sorry, in the 10th round. Where's my mind at? In the 10th round. He's going around players like Jamison Williams and Melvin Gordon and Rondale Moore. That is outrageous to me. He should be going before Robert Woods, should probably be going before Michael Gallup, maybe Russell Gage, Christian Watson. I think Boyd is just being way underpriced right now. And, this is best ball and this is, a stack. So what you want is if he has a good game, you want the points on that team. And if you're betting on the offense as a whole, you want pieces of that offense, right? If you're betting on the offense, you want to give yourself avenues and opportunities to access that offense. Tyler Boyd is a great wide receiver, and you can get him in the 10th round. Something happens to Chase, something happens to Higgins, Tyler Boyd is going to be one of the most reliable targets on that offense. And we hope the same thing for the Cowboys, with Gallup and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, and that never really worked out. But it kind of did. Gallup was hurt. Not that we're hoping for a Gallup injury, but you know what I'm saying here. All of a sudden, the target tree does become more condensed. So yeah, a more expensive stack, I understand. Especially you're committing 3 of your first 6 picks to this offense. But I think it might be worth. I think it might be worth. No matter what you think of the Bengals, this, to me, it's high floor, high ceiling. And we like high floor, high ceiling. So I've been talking for longer than I expected here. We are finished for today. I will be recording again on Saturday. I'm going to be taking some of the things that I've been talking about here and actually put them into practice. I'm really itching to draft. It's hard not to today and or tomorrow. I do want to look into the schedule to help kind of finalize, maybe narrow down some of these 6 teams that I've chosen here. it's not that the NFL schedule is like the end all be all, but I do think it's part of the fact. I think you got to factor it in just a little bit here. Same thing with ADP. We want to factor it in a little bit here into our decision making. I also might do my favorite targets in round 6 through 10, but I don't know. Maybe that's more than I'm saying at the same time as I do the draft on Saturday. But I just feel like that might be biting too much at once. So I might save that for Monday or I'm sorry, Tuesday, and see also how a draft kind of affects my thinking on some of these players. As you can see, there's a bit of a sneak peek here. Wilson, Olave, Lance, Penny, Claypool, Gus Edwards. I'll talk about those, if not Saturday, on Tuesday. I know nobody's listening right now, but thank you for listening, and thank you for doing this, Dagan, Mr. LP. LP. Thank you for listening to me and the fantasy and LP's fantasy football show. I will see you on Saturday for a draft.